Okay, I'm going to show from beginning to end, if I can, how to make paint just from pigment and oil. This is a plate that I'm going to use to mold the paint on. It's not slick like glass. It's got sort of a slightly rough surface to it. I bought it at Home Depot. It's just a regular floor tile, but don't buy anything slick because you want it to have a surface that kind of keeps the stuff from sliding around so much. I'm going to show how to make it just from pigment and oil and then nothing else. This particular pigment doesn't need an additive. Some of the other ones I've added wax into it, and I will put an extender in it. I'll explain it when I get to it because this pigment is so strong that you can't really, I don't have any use for it being that strong. It's just a waste of paint. So I guess you would say diluted. It doesn't change the color, but it just adds more volume. Okay, this is a plate, muller. That's a muller. Alright, let me see where I am. I'm going to get out a tube just so I know what size I'm aiming for when I mix this up. Yeah, this is it. Okay, this is just for my reference, but this is how much I'm shooting for. I usually go over, but I'm going to try to get it close. Usually I do too big of a batch, but right now I'm not really wanting to make a whole lot. I just felt like doing something, so I'm going to make some up. This is burnt sienna pigment from Pigment. It's PBR7 is an official chemical or the official pigment number. It's about, I don't know, 10 a dozen, 20. I don't know how many different browns are made of this, depending on whether you heat this or whether it's finely ground or not finely ground. I'm going to start. I'm going to use so much filler that I don't really want to make, because I'm going to make almost half. I'll probably add half again as much calcite to this. So I'm just eyeballing this according to how much I plan on making. And this is a heavy pigment, so it's not really that bad, but I should, and I will, just to be official, I guess, I'll use a mask until this is ground enough to where it's not airborne at all. Okay, let's just pretend I'm using a mask because I can't find it right now. And I don't want to spend all day doing this. Spend 30 minutes looking for a mask. Palette knife, something else that comes in handy. Usually I use a couple of them so I can scrape them off each other. Usually I have one bigger than this one too, but I can't find it right this second. I think it's sturdy, probably. Sun-treated oil. I didn't mention it before. It was heated to 150 Celsius for an hour. When I used the unheated oil, the first few tubes of paint that I made, it was a mess. It was pretty much unusable. Maybe I'll compare it when I'm done. You can see. I'll show you some that I used it. But it was unusable. It was like thick, gooey pudding mix. Okay. This is the oil. I kind of know how much it takes, so I'm just putting it out here right now. A lot of times I'll divide it. This thing's got a hole in it. A lot of times I'll divide it into smaller sections and do it a little bit at a time. But this isn't going to be a huge mass of paint. I'm not making 2 or 3 tubes at a time, so it should be okay. This is marble dust. It's calcite. So I'm going to use this calcium carbonate as a filler in a few minutes. I'm using these little droppers to pull out this, but they're plastic and they break really fast. Okay. I don't know if you can see. I'm going to have to move this light because it's blocking everything I'm trying to do. I can't get it to that side. Crap. horrible lighting. It's not going to be any better. That's a little better. I'll try to keep my hands out of the way as much as I can. This is not going to be nearly enough oil. All the pigments you work with, they're all different as far as how much oil they take and how absorbent they are. This one kind of takes a lot. I've used some. It's a nickel yellow that I do that's even worse than this one, but it takes a ton of oil. And the only way to tell is just to put it in and mix it. You want to go, if you overshoot this at this stage, you can add more. If you overshoot with the oil, you can add more pigment, or you can just keep adding oil. I'm trying not to overshoot it because I don't want to add any more pigment, because this is about the volume that I'm going to want. But like I said, it's very absorbent. I forgot how much it was. So I'll probably speed all this up for your benefit, or the benefit of people, the imaginary viewers that aren't watching this. It just takes practice of doing it. You kind of get used to. You get the mechanical motions that work well. And the stuff is light, so you can fling it across the room if you're not careful how you handle it. That's why you're supposed to wear a mask. Like I said, this pigment isn't that bad. It stays pretty much put, but you should wear a mask at least until you're through with this stage and and the pigment's all wet. Then it's not, going to get airborne anymore. Now, if you didn't want the final texture for this paint to be the way, if it turns out at the end it's too grainy, then what you need to do next time is to go back and you take it when it's still in the dry stage. And I've got a mortar and a pestle, and you put it in there and grind it to a smaller size. But that, I don't know if it does with this pigment, but it can affect color a lot, depending if it's. I know I did some greens that were like a turquoise. It looked like it was malachite, and it was a really beautiful color in the powder. But once I think it was ground too fine. I didn't look at it, and it was like a puke green by the time it was done. It was a really nasty color. I mean, I could use it for something, but it wasn't the color it started out, all because the particles were smaller. So eventually I'll buy the type that's not ground down as much and try it, but it was too expensive. It was an experiment, and I think it was really, really stupidly expensive. But this is almost together. I mean, it's almost consolidated, I guess, with the oil. This, like I said, this is really, really, this pigment is really, really good pigment. There's no fillers, there's nothing added to it. But I'm going to add, I don't think that's quite as much pigment as I need. When this gets the way, you get it, some of it the way you need it, and just put it off to the side and you can work on it. So I usually will divide the smaller batches like that. I'll just mix a little and move it to the side when it gets the consistency that I want. So I don't want to overshoot the size of this tube, because like I said, I'm going to add chalk to it, which is going to almost double the volume. One reason people make their own paints, besides just being stupid and wanting to, okay, cut that out. One reason people, make their own paints, I guess, is that a lot of these companies use fillers extensively, like way overusing. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't call it a filler. I mean, I guess it's a filler, but it's not. It's not to the point to where I'm trying to adulterate the paint to just make it huge volumes of it and with little pigment. In paint, you're paying for the pigment. So if you got a pigment that costs the maker $5 a tube to make, but he can get the same volume by using $2 of pigment and 5 cents worth of chalk. Then a lot of companies will just add chalk and wax, and I think it's aluminum stearate's another one. Some of these, I mean, they're good. They're things you can use in the paint to be helpful with, but they're also things you can overuse. And when you overuse them, then it would be categorized more as a filler than as an additive. But if it's your paint and you want to add it to it just because you want that certain body or texture, then that's you. Okay, I'm going to add some calcium carbonate and just see kind of what the final volume is, because you have to add a whole lot of this for it to change the color at all. But I definitely don't want to do that. But even with this stuff, even 50-50 it is. You can't really tell the difference with the final mixed color. And this is all going to the same place, so I'm not cleaning anything out. And this is the same way. If you can't really see from there, but this is a little bit more resistant to water, not much, but a tiny bit. And you can tell it runs off the water, not water, well, oil, but I think oleophobic as opposed to hydrophobic. Hydrophobic is if it doesn't absorb water, and oleophobic is if it's resistant to oil. And some of them are. It's when you have to add. I've added wax, but I don't know if it's for that purpose or not. I'm not that bright. Maybe sodium stearate, I can't remember, or aluminum stearate, I can't remember. There are certain additives you can add a small amount to. And heat, I guess you can heat them too, that'll make them take the oil. So if you could see this is 99% chalk that I'm mixing. It's just picking up the pigment that was on here already, and you can it already looks brown. So the chalk really doesn't affect the color at all unless you use an ungodly amount. I would say you'd have to like triple. If you use triple chalk, a third pigment and quarter pigment and 3/4 chalk, yeah, you'd be able to tell. And I can tell by the texture if I've added it. And it's slightly, you can tell a little bit, just because this is all chalk. But once it's mixed into that bulk over there, you won't. See, this is almost straight chalk. So you can't really tell. And then mix it in with that, well, you can tell there side by side. But once it's mixed into that amount, it's mixed into there, it pretty much disappears. And we'll add a little bit more chalk. I still don't have the volume of paint that I want. No, that's not that much. Yeah, I'll probably wind up adding just a tiny bit more pigment into this because I still don't think that's going to be enough, and I've added about as much chalk as I want to. Like I said, this part is just kind of experiment. Figure out whether to move the oil over a bit and mix it a little bit at a time. A lot of times I'll just burrow out a hole in the middle and pour oil into it and kind of mix it in the center, but it just depends. What I think I'm going to do is mix all this together after I'm done with this and see what it looks like. If it's, and decide if I need to add more pigment or more marble dust or both. I'll probably add mostly pigment. I don't know. I said, I made a tube of this, just straight pigment, and aside from it being so strong that I cannot hardly mix it with anything else, aside from that, it also, wound up not really, well, I still saved money, but it was pointless. I mean, there's no use of being that strong. I have to thin it down just to use it, so I might as well thin it down in the tube. Okay, mix all this together and see what kind of volume I have. A color like this, you can probably get away with not mulling it at all and just using a palette knife to mix it. I almost want to do that just to avoid getting this whole plate dirty and getting the muller dirty and having to go back and clean it all up, but I haven't decided yet. Mulling seems to be the part that everybody likes, or they like seeing it. This is the volume I'm shooting for, so I'm not there yet. I'm going to add, I think, the rest of that, just because it happens to be there. It's still going to be strong. Add that. And I'll add a little pigment back into it. And I think that's going to be close. But again, these tubes are a tiny bit larger than what I'm used to. So usually when I do this, like I said, I would make a larger batch and just eyeball it and make a couple of tubes. But the thing is, when I do that, I wind up having like a half a tube left or something, and I don't want to tube up something in half a tube, and I don't like keeping it in little jars because I lose them. This thing's already broken. These things suck, man. I mean, they're good, but they're not good because they only last like an hour. So no, they're not good. I take that back. They suck. I mean, they're 3 cents a piece, but still. When I'm doing it, I try to push to get it as dry. Make sure it's got as much of the oil up as I can before I add more oil. I don't have to add any more pigment to it. Like I said, if you overshoot it, I keep adding oil. But if I overshoot, if I've got the volume of paint I want, I overshoot and I don't want to add, at that point you have to add pigment, and then your volume's too much, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. I'm trying to inch my way up to it. I'm not going to say anything. You won't miss my pearls of wisdom. This is the part where you just go really fast. 4 times normal speed. 4 times normal speed. Time lapse, time lapse, time lapse. Oh, it's so dark. Shit. Trying to get a visual idea of where it is. It's still, I'm used to the smaller tubes, so I'm just going to go ahead and just speed down with it. Honestly, I feel I feel like I'm cheating adding so much of this marble dust in here, but I mean, I'm the one that's going to be using the paint, and it's so strong that I just don't have much use for it being that strong. It's just a waste. Because I put it on the palette and then I mix another color with it, and it's so strong that I have to mix a whole lot of the other color with it, and then I have too much paint. It's just overkill. But it's there. I mean, the strength is there if I need anything that strong. You know, I could make up pure batches if I want to, and I still have some. Maybe when I get to the end of those tubes, I'll save that little bit left. I may have added wax into this. I'm going to try to do it without wax this time, just to see if I really needed it last time. Because I think I added it to all the last couple of paints I did, because it seemed like everything was needing it, and I think I just went ahead and added it. A couple of drops of, can't see it, but this is wax oil, where I've heated the oil and added wax into it. At this point, it probably needs to be heated again before it's used. You can see it in there a little bit. I have these wax pellets, and I heated the oil and melted the wax into them, and then just a few drops of that mixed in with the paint. It's not, you could do it at this stage if you already knew it needed it, but I'm not doing it because I didn't know last time until I was mulling what the consistency was going to be like at the end. It's the same thing now, but I don't think I had to do anything. I think this is one of the easier pigments. Quinacridone Magenta, the one I did, the purple one, was the easiest one I did. That's what I officially advised. I don't know how expensive it was. I don't remember, but that was an easy one. I didn't do anything to it. I don't even know. I did maul it, but I probably didn't have to maul it. And this looks like dirt because it is dirt. A lot of pigments are dirt. This is iron in this that gives it this color. It's iron oxide. Minutes into this, and I'm already excited. How about you? I'm excited too. Guess I'll use another one of these since that one's busted already. I still don't think this is going to be enough either. I may have to just bust out one of those smaller tubes. I'm almost there though, so I guess not. Screw it. That should be really close. Usually what I would do is what I did the first time you saw, which is mix the chalk separately and then mix it into the other batch. Right now the powders, the pigments mixed with the chalk here. But it'll be, I'm going to maul it so it'll all be mixed together. Probably have more control over it that way. But honestly, when I'm painting, sometimes I mix the chalk straight into the paint. And squirt it out of the tube and you mix it into the paint. Mix chalk straight into it just to change it. because I've tried to tube the chalk and it dries up after about a week. And I had to throw it away. I tried it 3 times. This is what I do to avoid thinking, because I don't like thinking all the time. This helps me not think, except when I'm talking about thinking. Okay, then the exciting part. It is not exciting at all. The battery is what? 10%? Cool, whatever. I think this color would be fine without mulling it. I think you could just tube it the way it is. I would do it like this for another 10 minutes or so. But I'm going to go ahead and mull it. This is a small enough amount where I can just keep working this part. It's kind of oily though. I might have to add something to it. Picking up just these little drops from around it are changing the consistency because I didn't get all the drops off the side. Alright. And this is not grinding it at all. I mean, it'll make the noise like it's grinding, but it's not. You're not making smaller particles by doing this. You're just trying to smash it down and move it around to where the particles separate more and the oil can get between them all. Because right now they're still in clumps, even though it looks like it's smooth on the surface. It's still all clumpy. And you can tell when you start doing this because the consistency will change. What I usually do is do this for a minute. It starts to accumulate on the side. Just take a knife, spin it around the side and get the accumulated stuff off and mash it back in the center. So I can already tell, I don't know if you can tell, but it's already a lot smoother than it was. In the same way that I mixed it, if I get it to the consistency where I want it, I may take a chunk of this and put it off to the side and just work on the rest of it. This is almost too much to mull at once because it all just runs off the edges. So I think I'll start separating it out just a minute. This is almost too runny. At this point I could add more chalk to it. Because it's all, I don't know. This is the consistency it would be if you bought it. So it's normal paint consistency. I'm just used to mine being a little bit drier than that. I'm going to put that off to the side just for a second. Work on this little clump. You can actually see difference in the color if you write up on it. Not much, but I guess because the sheen changes. I don't think I'm going to mull it much more than this. I mean, I don't think it needs it. Although, it's still getting smooth. This is really smooth for that marble dust. I used calcite last time, I think, and I don't think I'm going to use that anymore. It's really coarse. It's coarse calcite. I just wanted to try what it would be like, but it's too coarse. It's really gritty, which is good for some stuff, but so yeah, I think this is good to go. Get all this off of here. There's a lot of paint on this too. One reason I don't do this that often, or like I said, I didn't want to think today. When I don't want to think, I don't. It does require cleanup. You have to clean up at least enough to where your tools aren't going to dry and just at a state where they're completely messed up. Okay, now I didn't wear gloves. This is not a toxic pigment, but I didn't wear gloves, so this tube may get, just ignore all the paint that gets all over this thing. I'll have to clean it up later. But this is the tube I bought. I've got these. These are, I don't remember, 37 milliliter, I think. Same process I always use. I'm going to open up the cap, take it off. It's slightly smaller. I don't know. We'll get used to what size. Anyway. Stop. Okay, start back. Okay. So at this point, this is just big enough to use. I'll just grab it up and put it in the tube. Usually I use the small one. It just takes a little longer. I don't know if I may switch to a smaller one anyway. If you want to tap it until it gets down to the bottom, you want it to come out here. When it starts, you can see it filling up the nozzle like that. Then you know there's not going to be any air trapped under it, so you can go ahead and put the lid on. All that's just to get the air out. Okay. I think I'm going to switch to a smaller. The one I started with. This is the messiest part, probably. I do not know how to do it without being messy. And every time I do this, I get about 3/4 of the way through it and I realize that I've got too much paint. It sounds like it's filling up fast. I hope it doesn't. But I mean, doing it like this, I like doing it. It's relaxing, except for the cleanup part. But the big part is you know what's in the paint. You know there are no additives that are going to do something funky when it dries. You know that it's the pigment that is what it says it is. It's not going to mix into some different color that you didn't expect. And also this tube would probably cost me, I can't off the top of my head, maybe $11, $12. And that pigment cost me $25, I think, and it'll make, I would guess 15 of these, 15 or 20 tubes, at least 15. So that's, I don't know, you do the math. But I think the other one, most of them will cost me maybe, I'm saving like 60%, close to half. Maybe you can see inside of it, maybe, if you can see with the shadow. So yeah, I think I actually measured this one out. This looks not even quite enough. It's disappointing. If I wasn't, I really hate wasting tubes. I'm gonna make them half full, and this one's not half, but it's only, I don't think it's enough to mess with. I'm just gonna leave it the way it is. It's only 3/4, maybe 3/4 of the way full. I don't fill these tubes up all the way because you have to fold them over and seal them at the end too. But it's not even, I'm at 3/4 of where I would normally fill it. So it's not going to be full tube. I would like to do it. It's not, yeah, it is. I was going to say it's not that bad. It is. It's like way down here. Way down here, I'd rather it be it's right here, which is it's not ideal, but it's not worth me putting out and mulling this, because I would almost invariably add too much, and then I would wind up with too much paint, and I would be bitching just as much about that as I am about this. I don't think anybody's ever going to see this because I don't feel like editing it down. Alright. And one thing, when I do these, I'll wrap in a paper towel, squeeze it right here, twist it, twist, twist, and as you go up, pull, and you get off most of it. Get another paper towel and try it again. And it's about as much as I'm going to get off without actually really cleaning it. This is the part I don't like, because every time I do it, I waste paint, and I don't like wasting paint. But you need to squeeze the end of the tube, pinch it like this, and you work your way to the end. And every time I do this, and there's just no way to avoid it. Every time you do it, all this paint comes out, even when I'm trying not to do it. And I hate to see wasted paint. Okay. Then take this, wipe it off my shirt. It doesn't matter at this point. You take this, put some down here. Oh no, I'm not. I got shit on there. Okay. Anyway, you take this and you fold it over. Maybe 1/8 of an inch. Bend it down. And I would normally crimp it here and then fold it and crimp it again with a pair of pliers. But what I've started doing instead is just folding it twice. See, this is easier to fold because I didn't put enough paint in it, so it's really easy to do. Fold it twice like this. And then I happen to have a tube wringer that I use to squeeze the last bit of paint out of these tubes. And it actually crimps the end of the tubes, so I can use that. I don't know if you can see it. Put it on here. Close it down. And then pull it through. Oh, down, pull it through. And that should be crimped. That should be. That's it. Actually, turned out okay. Well, I folded it down. So, here, and this is the finished tube. Here's the paint. And it's not like acrylic, so it will stay forever and ever, and ever, and ever. This, I will likely just oh shit, forgot about that. I'll just throw it away. I don't like throwing it away. It'll make a mess if I keep it somewhere. Alright. That's enough. One thing I do, I make sure I label these. After I label them, I'll put like I'll show you. I'll label it, by the name of the color, the burnt sienna. Put 2020. I'll put when it was done. If I do some other ones, if I change the formula, then I'll do it. Then I'll put on the back, I'll list what was added. Or it was done in heated oil, so I'll put heated oil. And marble dust. So you have burnt sienna, heated oil, marble. I didn't add any wax or anything into this, so I'm not going to put that in there. And I usually will do just a dab of the color. In case I'm looking for the, in case I'm painting and I'm looking for the tube. And last thing I'll do is wrap it in clear plastic, which was dirty in that case, so I messed that up. But anyway, just so when I paint, if this gets really, really dirty, you can still scrub off where the tape is. It'll come off really easily. Yeah, I could have done a better job if I wasn't trying to be a movie star, but Alright, anyway, that's it. Just a follow deal.